Last night we were given a debate that literally no one asked for. The governor of California, the 5th largest economy in the world, that's right, the world, went up against the high heel wearing meatball who comes around every hurricane season and begs for more money. But before we look at the highlights, let's check in with Fox News. Let's let them shape our opinion first. Let's go to the network that ran with a fake terrorist attack for 5 hours straight and never really apologized last week. Let's let them tell us how it went. Let's listen to the guy who wears magic underwear and bought a turkey for $113 for Thanksgiving when I was able to get 2 for like $40. Let's listen to him.
I thought it was exponentially off the charts great for Ron DeSantis. I thought he was
Folks.
presidential. I think he will rise in the polls, and I think his stature and his demeanor was just spot on.
So the guy who buys exponential turkeys for $113 when they're at a historical low, he thinks, how's this guy still on this network? They ran with a fake terrorist attack. Anyway, I digress. Let's see what the blow-up doll has to say.
Great.
DeSantis gets an A. He was the clear runaway winner. However, Gavin Newsom, given the bad pile of facts, gets a C. He's a sharp messenger. Watch out. That guy's coming. He's a rising.
Watch out. That guy's coming. Exactly what I expect the blow-up doll to say. So she calls it a bad pile of facts. But do you notice she still calls it facts? That's a big difference. That's a big difference between the two parties right now. I guess it's a bad pile of facts because it hurt their feelings. So let's check out some clips. A little bit of forward of the clips we're going to watch. They're mostly Gavin because if you watched it live, Hannity was doing all the heavy lifting for DeSantis. He was cutting off Newsom when he was trying to give context, trying to give facts. So let's see. Let's see how Gavin Newsom differentiates himself from the meatball, the fascist meatball. So let's start with the border.
By the way, do you see that risk, Governor Newsom?
Hold on.
Governor,
I mean,
do you see the risk?
Joe Biden put out not only a comprehensive plan, he consistently puts up plans. Hold on, no, but Sean,
is there a risk?
I'm going to answer your question. I support border security. I think the asylum system is broken. I believe that we.
I understand that.
I'm the only guy here that's a border state governor. You're trolling folks and trying to find migrants to play political games to try to get some news and attention so you can out-Trump Trump. And by the way, how's that going for you, Ron? You're down 41 points in your own home state. On the issue of immigration, Joe Biden.
You look at that shit-eating grin by DeSantis. And Gavin is 100% right here. DeSantis uses federal funds to ship people from Texas, not even Florida, to places like Martha's Vineyard. And it costs about $2,000 a pop. That's for each immigrant he's doing. 1/3, 33% of Florida's budget comes from the federal government. That's you, and that's mostly me because I'm in Newsom state. At least a couple hurricanes devastate Florida every year. It's something you can plan for. And because of global warming, they're increasingly getting worse. A responsible governor would plan for that. He would take the federal money we're sending him in advance, put it in a little piggy bank, and then after the hurricane hits, use some of that money that you set aside. But nah, red state welfare starts with Florida. And we all know this. But when those hurricanes hit, Ronnie's always the first one in line. Got his food stamps ready, begging for more money.
Your immigration policy can best be described as a governor from the state of Florida going into another state, the state of Texas, lying to migrants, promising them jobs and housing, sending them to an island, Martha's Vineyard, and then sending them to a parking lot in Sacramento, California. I met with those migrants that you lied to under false pretense. That kind of gamesmanship, using human beings as pawns, I think is disqualifying. So again, a guy who stands here who's been out on the Republican debate stage saying, well, he's going to be tough, he's going to shoot people with backpacks, and that he has a strategy to potentially even invade our second largest trading partner, Mexico, that has a record of supporting amnesty and supporting reforms under the Obama administration, is the last guy to be standing on stage talking about the issue of immigration reform tonight.
Oof! And that is what it looks like when you're removed from your radical base and given a dose of reality. Reports are after that shellacking, Ronnie Boy broke one of his heels. For anyone that pays attention to actual facts, to actual politics, not some culture war bullshit, they know that out of the top 10 states with the highest murder rates, seven of those are Republican states. So let's check out this clip.
And security, I would argue, is a prerequisite for the pursuit of happiness.
Well, I couldn't agree with you more. We're near 50-year lows, down 55% violent crimes in the state of California from the 1990s.
True.
And I want to compare and contrast that with the issue in Florida that you didn't mention, and that's the murder rate. And let's broaden it more broadly. The issue is 7 of the top
Those numbers
10,
were part of the murder rate.
7 of the top 10 murder rates in the United States of America are red states. He has a 66% higher gun death rate than the state of California.
You think how many articles you see about Florida?
Go to places like Jacksonville. Go to places like Orlando. Go to places like Tampa. The murder rate's off the charts compared to cities like San Francisco.
So
and you know what? Even more egregiously, Sean, and I think this is important, the American people deserve an answer from you, Ron. You had one of the worst mass shootings in American history, Parkland. 17 kids were gunned down, lives lost, 17 others, lives torn asunder. You had a young girl by the name of Jamie Gutenberg, whose father pleaded with you to do something about it. And you know what you did? You did the exact opposite. You made it easier for felons to get guns without background checks, without any training. These people pleaded with you, the parents and the families, to get tough on gun safety. And again, you made it easier for felons. He said of you, Ron, and I agree with him, after you signed that concealed carry bill, which increases the likelihood, Fred Gutenberg said, of more Jamies losing their lives and more Parklands. He called you weak, pathetic, and small. So with respect, I appreciate you're talking to police officers in the state of California. You may want to spend a little bit more time, not on the Ohio Trail and other places across this country. You may spend a little more time back in your home state and address the murder and gun violence in your own backyard.
As I said before, I'm from a small hick town in Utah where there was 2 things to do: shoot guns, knock up your high school girlfriend. And I got out of there without knocking up a high school girlfriend. I guess I'm a good shot. But even on the Republican side, it's popular to put restrictions on people, especially domestic abusers, anyone with mental problems who you think could do these kind of things like shoot up a school. But his base are these white nationalists, they LARP, right? They LARP as Gravy SEALs. They dress up in their tactical armor and they walk around. They go into Starbucks with an AR-15. He has to cater to them. Because as we've talked about before, the Republican Party is such a Frankenstein. It's so held together of these radical groups. And one of those radical groups are these people that see themselves being in a civil war. Civil War Part 2, cruise control. Next up, Hannity wanted to talk about cognitive decline and people being too old to be president. I mean, here's a recent picture of Joe Biden being helped by his son walk down the ramp, right? Oh, wait, that's Trump? Yeah, he looks pretty healthy. I can see the diapers still. And everyone who watches this show knows that I agree. Politicians are way too old. We need people from our generation. It's our future they're messing with. We should be in there planning this out. And the DNC is terrible at framing and running the PR on the actual accomplishments that Joe Biden's done. So in a lot of ways, I agree that it would be nice to swap someone in. But I'm telling you, what casuals don't know, what people who get like emotional facts, they let their emotions dictate where they seek out news. Always historically, an incumbent has an advantage. And there's no evidence that Joe Biden won't have an advantage being the incumbent president. I mean, we don't want to do Gerald Ford again. And we certainly don't want to do Gerald Ford with a loony like RFK Jr., right? Anyway, let's see what Hannity and the meatball have to say about Joe Biden.
And in other words, it's the toughest job in the world. Is Joe Biden experiencing this cognitive decline? Is it a danger to the country? Do you find when he speaks, what is your reaction to it?
Yes, he's in decline. Yes, it's a danger to the country. He has
Look
no
behind the
business
point.
running for president. And, you know, Gavin Newsom agrees with that. He won't say that. But that's why he's running his shadow campaign. He should not be running. He is not up to the job. And it is dangerous for this country.
Well, I will take Joe Biden at 100 versus Ron DeSantis any day of the week.
I would take
at
a
any
golden
age. In
retriever
fact,
over
all of the
You
folks
think,
DeSantis.
he's up to the job? You think he's 100%?
I've been
I
spending
think it's
plenty
golden
of time
retriever
with Joe
over
Biden.
self-
Private and
Let him
public.
describe
You don't know. And by the way,
fascist.
results matter. Inflation now is down to 3.2%. Wages are up to 4.4%. The economy is booming, 5.2% GDP growth in the last quarter. Those are facts you don't hear on Fox News. 14 million jobs, 10 times
Let me
more than the
move
last
on. That
3.
was the light.
So a couple things about that. I had a conversation with a guy, you know, I think's pretty smart, used to lean left, and he repeated these same talking points that Fox puts out there. When I told him we have the lowest inflation out of all G7 countries, no way. I'd have sent him like 5 different articles. I think one of them might have been in the Wall Street Journal, just to prove it to him. Just to deprogram this propaganda. It's batshit to me that people don't realize what companies are doing right now. When oil companies are turning in the highest profits in over 100 years, in over a century. When, you know, Pampers raises the price of diapers $5 and then records a $100 million increase during the quarter. Corporations are loving this culture war. They're absolutely lapping it up. Because they get to take you for a ride. And who do you blame? Do you know how insane you have to be to not only think the president of the United States controls international oil rates? Do you not know how insane you have to be to not only believe that, but then to go around and do the bidding of these oil companies by sticking these stickers on here? And I honestly want to know, now that gas is back down to, I don't know, pre-2020 levels. Because they always want to say, oh, in 2020, gas was $1.80. Yeah, no shit. We had a little thing going on in 2020. People weren't exactly going anywhere. Anybody remember it? So I just wondered if you have to go build these off now every time it comes in. Because you guys are the culture warriors. You're doing the bidding. If we actually held these companies responsible for this gouging, we could pass some laws. We could get some shit done. But nah, you just bought these stickers off Etsy, Bubba. So knock yourself out. So Sean rolls in with his hypothetical. I think Gavin had a pretty good answer. Let's check it out.
Bottom line,
If at the DNC convention they come and
Joe
ask you,
Biden-
will you run? What will you say?
Joe Biden will be our nominee in a matter of weeks. And in a matter of weeks, Sean, he'll be endorsing Donald Trump as a nominee
He'll be
for the
kissing his
Republican
ass.
Party.
If they come to you at the DNC and Joe is incapable
He's already
of
licking
running
his
and they
lips,
ask
getting
you,
ready
are
to
you a
kiss that
hard no?
ass.
And it's not even
What
even
is he
optional.
doing here? Does he not have like a campaign manager who says, quit doing this fake smiling shit. Quit licking your lips. Quit being such a fucking weirdo, Ron. I lived in San Francisco for like 2.5 years. And I'm here to tell you, it's a shithole. It's a cold shithole, which makes it somehow even worse of a shithole. And I lived there when Gavin was the mayor. And at the time, I didn't think he was doing a very good job as mayor. But the thing about San Francisco is the more I learned about it, the more I realized it's almost to the point of being unsavable. It's above one man. It's above almost a community. San Francisco has a terrible mixture of the tech bros who moved in, bought all the real estate, then moved out during COVID-19 because they could all work from home. Turns out most people could work from home. And then it has a bunch of liberal policies that don't work in that particular mixture of a city, especially when it's only like 7 miles long. Old money, tech bros, a sense of lawlessness. I mean, it's just a disaster. They need to start over. They need to rethink San Francisco. Having said that, I kind of have, I guess, when I bring it up, it's a controversial idea. Vice presidents historically don't do much. They don't mean much. But somehow, Kamala Harris has taken that to the next level. No one really knows what her role is. She's unlikable. Probably should have stayed in the Senate. She's much better there. So here's what you do. You make Kamala Harris Secretary of State. And before you call me a sexist or a racist or whatever, a Secretary of State is a huge job promotion from VP. And not only that, it's a job promotion where she gets to actually use her skills. She can get some shit done. You do the deepest vetting you've ever done on a candidate ever for Gavin Newsom, right? Make sure we don't have a John Edwards scenario. And then you move him in as VP. Because as we're seeing from these clips, this guy's able to articulate with a sense of energy the accomplishments of the Democratic Party and how we differ from, this radical right, theocratic, fascist, Republican nationalist party. Putting him on the ticket would be a shot in the arm to the campaign. And I'm telling you, Kamala would thrive as a Secretary of State. Because right now, the joke is she blends into the wallpaper. She literally blends in to the seat at the State of the Union. So it's just an idea. Please don't cancel me for having an idea. So now we get to the subject of cops. The boys in blue. These colors don't run. Blue lives matter and none else do. Let's see what they had to say about that.
I love this guy talking about backing the blue when you dangled pardons for January 6 insurrectionists, 85 of them that literally were charged with attacking law enforcement. You talk a big game about backing the blue. With all due respect to the crime rate, again, he's not answering the fact that he has a higher murder rate than the state of California, a 66% higher gun death rate than the state of California. And I can easily answer this point. Gun safety saves lives. I don't think it, I know it. And the data bears that out in the state of California. California proudly does lead in terms of common sense gun safety. Common sense gun safety saves lives. You had the chance to do something meaningful. You had the chance to do something on behalf of those Parkland families. You did the exact opposite. You moved in the exact opposite direction. With all due respect, look at your own backyard, Ron. You're not mining your backyard on this issue.
We have covered breathlessly how the party who went crazy because something was dubbed defund the police, when it actually just meant don't give the police tanks and fucking machine guns. And how those people clutch their pearls like that, who have the cop flag hanging outside their house instead of the American flag, trying to square the circle of the January 6th Republican MAGA terrorists, who actually, symbolically, you have to appreciate the metaphor and the symbolism. We're beating a cop with an American flag. I mean, it doesn't get much more poetic than that. But the thing you have to understand about Republicans is they only believe the last thing they've heard, right? That's why it started off January 6th. They were Antifa undercover. Then it was the FBI undercover. And then it was actual MAGA supporters, but they were just there as tourists, smearing their shit on the walls, right? So and then it was released them because they're political prisoners. You understand how in the time of a year, it changed so easily? And it's because there's really no facts. And it's why a snake like Ron DeSantis, it's why these chuds that live around me fly their cop flag, their Blue Lives Matter flag, and not the American flag, and still have their little 3%ers on their window, their little Proud Boys. At the gym, their Proud Boys shirt. Because there's a disconnect, because facts don't matter. Fascism relies on the juxtaposition, the conundrums of belief. They simultaneously have to be victims and aggressors at the same time. And this is just another extension of that. Now let's go back to that beautiful time that Republicans want to remember when they're complaining about government overreach and conspiracy theories, but don't want to remember when they're talking about how low gas was. COVID-19. And some of us even remember this guy when it first happened back in September. But let's see what Gavin has to say.
You passed an emergency declaration before the state of California did. You closed down your beaches, your bars, your restaurants.
False.
It's a fact.
You
had quarantines. You had quarantines. You had checkpoints all over the state of Florida. By the way, I didn't say that. Donald Trump laid you out on this. Dead to right.
Daddy.
You did that. True. You followed science. You followed Fauci.
That's not false.
He followed science. He followed Fauci.
Why did everyone leave California to come to
promoting
Florida?
vaccines.
We were open.
You were promoting vaccines. You even wore a mask in September.
We were open.
Sean,
you were closed.
If it's okay with you, We'll do this.
Why were you
Why don't we do
closed for
this
so
in a way
long?
where we both can have
Why were you closed for
opportunity?
so long?
You wore
You
a
were
mask
closed.
with
Guys,
Donald
guys,
Trump
closed.
outside
I'm trying to let it breathe.
in September
Gavin,
2020. He did
smile.
all of
Governor
that
Newsom.
What a
until
keeper.
he decided to fall prey to the fringe of his party. And as a consequence of that, Ron, tens of thousands of people lost their lives.
Not true.
The equivalent, if I had your policies, the equivalent of 10 9/11s. Tens of thousands of people lost their lives. And for what, Ron?
And there it is. Ron DeSantis is the perfect sketch of politicians who cater to the craziest people in their party because they think they can't get elected unless they do it. And you know why we didn't make many videos on COVID? Because I'm not a doctor. I don't understand pandemics, so why would I cover it? I work on political campaigns and political science. That's why I talk about that stuff. But we all saw, everyone around us, the loonies, right? Even not the loonies sometimes. They all became medical experts during that time. The dumbest people I went to high school with were writing paragraphs on Facebook about COVID-19, and that was nothing. And that's who Ron had to cater to because, Florida. So, of course, this guy is now on stage getting triggered because someone said you followed the science. Does Ron DeSantis actually hate gay people? I don't know. He probably doesn't. But just look at Ted Cruz. He has a gay daughter who, has tried to off herself a couple times. But that doesn't matter to him because all that matters to them is worshiping at this altar, this political altar. And Gavin Newsom sinks a full court shot here, the equivalent of a full court shot, by bringing in Ronald Reagan. Here, let's watch.
I remember in the 1970s, we had a bill called the Briggs Initiative. And there was a guy by the name of Ronald Reagan, so offended by the Briggs Initiative, which was the original Don't Say Gay bill. In that case, it was not allowing teachers that happened to be gay to teach. And Reagan had the courage to stand up and he said, you can't catch gay like you can measles. I don't like the way you demean people. I don't like the way you demean the LGBTQ community. I don't like the way you demean and humiliate people you disagree with, Ron. I really find this fundamentally offensive. And this is a core value that distinguishes the values of my state and, frankly, the vast majority of Americans against the weaponization of education and the purging that he's advanced.
I have a follow-up question.
Destroying a Republican with Ronald Reagan. I'm telling you. Touchdown. Field goal, three-pointer. Whatever you want to call it. Slam dunk. There it is. They also happen to cover this subject right here, right? Banning books in Florida. That's right, it's 2023 in America. If you've traveled to the future, the Republican Party is banning books now. So yeah, welcome. Glad we fought that war. Glad we fought World War II. Let's see what they had to say.
You've been on a banning bench. 1,406 books have been banned just last year under Ron DeSantis' leadership. I love that he keeps pulling this out. I've seen this. He's been doing this all over campaign trail. What's wrong with Toni Morrison's books?
It's not banned.
What's wrong? It's not true.
100%
What's wrong with Amanda
Why lie,
Gorman's
Ron?
Not
and the
banned.
poetry?
It is banned.
1,406
False narratives.
books
False narratives.
have been banned on your banning binge in the state
I hate
of
people that
Florida.
can
As it relates
lie
to
like this.
parental rights, come on. California, it's in our Constitution, parental engagement. It's called the LCFF process. We actually require parental engagement on curriculum development. And we don't. Complete lie. We don't require K
Mom's a
through
liberal's
third
head
grade sexual education. That doesn't happen until middle school. What you're doing is using education as a sword for your cultural purge. And you know what? With all due respect, I remember in the 1970s, we had a bill called the Briggs Initiative. And there was a guy by the name of Ronald Reagan.
I guess this is where Reagan comes in, so we'll cut it off. Look at him chugging that water. Oh boy, here comes Reagan. If you've been watching Fox News long enough, this probably just rolls right off, right? Water off a duck's ass, or whatever the saying is. But honestly, to hear that this thing you've been pushing for, that California's had it all along, to engage parents in what their kids are learning, to know that it's part of the government and we do it that way, without showing up like zombies to libraries to burn books. I have to hope that on some level, for at least a couple people out there, especially parents, that this penetrates that bubble you've been in. I hope it makes you start to understand that government in the United States and the way things run existed before 2015. Before 2015, when you fell into a personality cult and then LARPed as an intellectualist online. There's ways to do stuff in this democratic republic besides smear your shit on the walls or crash PTA meetings with right-wing agendas. And out here in Calmy, California, we've already instilled levers that parents can have, that communities can have. So we're not raising a bunch of dumbasses. So now here's the section of the debate where three guys will debate if a woman should have a right to choose her own health care, if a woman should have privacy with her own doctor.
Would you support a ban on abortion in 7th, 8th, or 9th month if the mother's life is not in jeopardy?
Extreme exception. People aren't going on and having abortions.
Should it be illegal?
Unless something devastating is happening.
Should it be illegal?
It should be up to the mother and her doctor and her conscience. And it
so
almost
the answer is
always,
no restriction.
I've already answered it. And I'll just reinforce it. To cover up, again, hold on, for the most...
This is what we've been trying to say all along. No mother pays all that money going to the doctor, takes all the prenatal pills, takes all the precautions, and in the 9th month, right as the baby's coming out, says, nah, you know what? Let's forget about it. Let's forget about this year of my life I put away in pain, following the rules, doing all the steps. Let's forget about it. I changed my mind. And in order to buy into this ruse that DeSantis, Lindsey Graham, you want Lindsey Graham in charge of your body? He's never even seen a naked woman in his life. Tim Scott, same thing. Ted Cruz. You want them, in order to buy into this, where they get to decide the health care you want as a woman, you have to buy into the notion that women are so stupid and so flighty that this decision is made on a whim. And if you buy into that and believe that, then you are one of the people that should never have a say. Never have a say in not just women's health care, not just women's privacy, everyone's health care. You don't want to have an abortion, don't have an abortion. Get the fuck out of here. Now let's check in on a frank discussion. Let's check in on Gavin having a hard conversation. A hard conversation with the meatball.
Just a reminder, I think it's a question some people are probably asking. I know Nikki Haley's campaign is asking, when are you going to drop out and at least give Nikki Haley a shot to take down Donald Trump in this nomination? She laid you out.
Please.
You're a walking hypocrite. You're a walking hypocrite
What about China?
on the issue of China. This is the guy that was looking for direct foreign trade from China, was doing trade shows.
That is
open
false.
up an awesome.
That's already been debunked. And you talk about the liberal...
I guess if any MAGA chuds made it this far to the video, there's your gift for you right there, right? China Ron. That's what your cult leader calls him. And you know that frank discussion hurt Ronnie Meatball. You wish, because the Mercers and the Kochs are now backing Haley. And that was Ron DeSantis' best shot at any of these. All right, let's wrap it up. Let's look at this final kill shot from Gavin.
And I want to answer that very directly. I'll tell you why I'm here. I'm here to tell the truth about the Biden-Harris record and also compare and contrast Ron DeSantis' record and the Republican Party's record as a point of contrast that's as different as daylight and darkness. You want to bring us back to a pre-1960s world, America in reverse. You want to roll back hard-earned national rights on voting rights, on civil rights, on LGBTQ rights, on women's rights, not just access to abortion, but also access to contraception. You want to weaponize grievance. You are focusing on false separateness. You in particular, Ron, are on a banning binge, a cultural purge, intimidating and humiliating people you disagree with. You and President Trump are really trying to light democracy on fire. So, Sean, there are profound differences tonight, and I look forward to engaging. But there's one thing in closing that we have in common is neither of us will be the nominee for our party in 2024.
A win for Ron DeSantis. This is what Kaylee says. He was buried under, a pile of bad facts? I agree with the blow-up doll. These were bad facts. Bad facts. Bad facts for the meatball. The real winner out of all this Fox News, if you want to report on it, is Nikki Haley, right? Gavin Newsom just did a hit for her on this weirdo
important when we're talking about facts. And this is what I think Ron DeSantis did very well with. He was prepared. It was smooth, but also authentic, a genuine guy, somewhat imperfect. And Americans now can determine immediately
Ron DeSantis
if you're
has never
dealing
been
with
called
a sharp, slimy guy, and the two can go together, or someone who, and they learned this from Trump, someone who maybe kind of is like shocking you a little bit, but he means it, and you know that he's serious and he's consistent. This was valuable for certainly for DeSantis and for the Republicans to learn this, that it's not just about not being Gavin Newsom. We saw Ron DeSantis last night as well, and
you have to wonder which debate that lady watched. This guy right here, he's totally authentic, right? Doing his lizard bullshit. News is trying so hard to make the narrative DeSantis won that debate. A debate that was on their channel, so their viewers watched it. And as we've covered, you could be a viewer, watch this entire debate, watch DeSantis do like his weird hand thing. Then this lady on Fox News says he's completely authentic. And you're like, oh, I never thought of that. I guess he is authentic, this guy. Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump will both use fascism. They'll both use white nationalist ideals, and they'll both push into a theocracy to appeal to a base. The difference is Trump is hilarious. I'm sorry to say it. But if he wasn't about to, end our democratic republic, the dude is objectively funny. And maybe it's a result of me being a 90s kid, where sometimes, I don't want to be told by the left what I can laugh at. So it is kind of funny. I'm not going to go the Ben Shapiro route. I'm not going to make a whole movie out of a single joke. But there is an allure to being able to still be funny in the way that Trump is funny. Should Trump be in charge of anything ever? No, of course not. He's a fascist. But all I'm trying to say is that is what Ron DeSantis doesn't have. And that's why Fox News is doing overtime on this, to try to sell you on this lizard in a skin suit. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Give it a thumbs up. If you don't like the video, give it a thumbs down. Talk about how I live in my mom's basement. But thanks for watching The Chut Report.
So, Sean, there are profound differences tonight, and I look forward to engaging. But there's one thing in closing that we have in common is neither of us will be the nominee for our party in 2024.